Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today I want us to get into the topic because I'm having this discussion with a few people before in regards to a lot of times people always talk about like the simp in the dating world, and no one has a problem talking about how the simp from the perspective of men, especially when they talk about how the simp ruins things, ruins the game, whatever the case is, or ruins things as a whole because they make the value of men a lot lower. A lot of times women will hold their value high in terms of, resistance of giving themselves to anybody, to everybody. They'll be very selective on who they're giving themselves to in terms of their time, their energy. And then a lot of times you have men who will do the simp thing, and they are not they're not very exclusive with who they give their energy to. They give it to everybody. They're giving too much. They're giving their, not only their time, their energy, but their money, and whatever the case is, even to their detriment. A lot of people say that ruins, that definitely has a big effect on ruining the dating world and the social dynamics for men. One thing a lot of people don't really speak on, though, is how the player type ruins it just as much as the simps, and a lot of people don't really get into that or speak on that. So we're going to kind of really dive into that here. The main way that really happens is, like I said, just a recap. With the simps, they're always giving too much or whatever the case is. And so it creates this sense of where all, like in the dating world, when you have it, because essentially the dating world is it's almost like the economy. It's like a competitive market. And so the idea is you're trying to get as much as you can out of it for yourself. And I don't mean for that to sound in a bad way, but more in the sense like you're trying to get the best value you can. It's like you're going to a store to buy a new car. You want the best value you can get, the best deal you can get. You want the car that you want, but you want to get it for the lowest price. You know what I mean? And that's not to say from a bad perspective, but I'm just giving that analogy. And that's anything, both for the man and the woman. And so when you have the simps out there, what they're doing is essentially saying, as far as the male simps, I've never heard anybody use that word for women, but essentially what you have is you have these guys who are just like, here, listen, like the sticker price says, $1,000 for the car. They're going, here, take $2,000 right off the back. You don't even got to debate with me. Take it. And then what happens is it throws everything off for everyone else, because then what happens is now anyone else who is trying to talk to that person, or whoever, other people who've experienced that, other women, it ends up being where they can't come to the table with a fair offer because the next person was offering way too much. That woman wasn't even valued for that, but of that value, but they were giving too much anyway. You know what I mean? An example of that would be this person's like, hey, listen, like I'm going to give you all my time, all my energy. You're not giving it back to me, but I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you all my money. I can't even afford my bills, but here you go. Whatever the case is, I just hope you like me. Now when the next person comes along and goes, hey, I don't mind, getting to know you, whatever the case is, but I'm not going to pay all your bills because we're grown adults. You got a job, I got a job. I don't know you like that yet. We're not living in the same space. I'm not going to do all that. Also, too, time-wise, I still got to spend time with my family. I got time to do this, whatever, my friends, whatever the case is. I can't just give you all my time. You're not going to give me all your time, so it's fair. But that person might say, that woman might go, well, this guy's willing to do it, so that's the bar set. So that's where that kind of, in a nutshell, comes from. But as far as, like I said, with the men, so for the player type, the reason why, when I use that term, I use it as a generic term encompassing just guys who maybe don't want to settle down, have a lot of options. And there's nothing wrong with those type of guys necessarily, and I don't think there's anything bad with that behavior if you're being honest with what you're looking for. If you're telling somebody, yeah, I'm not looking to settle down, so this is what it is, and someone has fair warning, it is what it is. You're not lying to them. That's a whole different story if you are lying to them. Now, but we're not speaking on that right now. Speaking from that perspective, though, from that kind of player state of mind, the issue where it causes just as much a problem in the dating world is because when you have that type of person who is not being selective with who they're targeting, so if they are very charismatic, a lot of times that dynamic of the player type comes from having a lot of options. A lot of people sometimes don't want to acknowledge that. It's that they are considered high value on the market. And I don't mean this from the perspective when people say high value man, it's not. I just mean in terms of their demand, supply and demand. People want them. If they're wanted, they're high value, period. It doesn't matter. They may not have no money, they meant nothing like that. If people want them, they're in high value, they're in high demand. And so that kind of person, if they have a bunch of options, you would assume then that they're going to execute them in a very stingy or very selective way, because it would make sense. And in that case, say if for sake of easy math and numbers, if that guy is a 9 out of a 10, and we'll say 5 is the average, and there are women who's like an 8 and a 9, you would think he was only going to select those ones who are 8 and a 9. It makes sense. What happens is when that person, just for the hell of it, targets somebody who's a 5, who's average, 5s and 6s, well, a little bit above average, what happens is it disrupts all the other men who are a 6 or 5, and they can't now get the average woman. And the damage, a lot of times if you speak to guys like that, they're just going to say, well, it is what it is, who cares, it's not a big deal. Not realizing that it's a huge deal, because now what happens is that it doesn't just affect the dating market for the men and causes so much damage for the overall men in terms of their, inside the dating pool and them trying to find something what they're looking for. It actually affects the women too, because it gives them a false sense of where their actual level is at, and they'll think, okay, that guy who's a 9, I'm at his level. And even when they know that their friend, female friend who is better looking than them, would normally get that guy and they normally can, they don't see it that way. If that guy is willing to hook up with them, they go, well, that's my level too. And because a lot of times women will be very much in competition with their own friends, they'll go, well, if I could get someone at that same level, I'm not going to view it that, I can't normally. They're just going to go, okay, I can get that. And that's what it is. So what you have from that is it affects them as well, because now they're falsely shopping in an area that's too expensive for them. But for the men, like I said, it disrupts the balance of all the average men, and now they can't get something decent. So now when they're trying to present themselves the best they can, they're being overshadowed by guys who might not even be a good suit for a particular woman, but it doesn't matter, because on the surface, that high demand, those guys are in higher demand because, like, whatever it is, their charisma, their looks, whatever the case is, and so it affects the whole dating pool. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because, like I said, it was a discussion that I was having, and I really do think that they actually affect things just as much, if not worse, than the simps. Now, I'm not saying that to say I condone the behavior that simps do, because I don't. But at the same time, too, I think a lot of people never speak on that aspect. Essentially, what you have is simps come from a place of desperation. It comes from a place of starvation. And sometimes we have to look at the overall picture and go, well, why are they starving? And, as the saying always goes, it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Well, that is a literal statement that should be viewed at, because when one person is getting what they want and they're not worried about those around them also getting, by regulating the pace of things, essentially that is what you get. And men operate differently than women. So men who can be selective and choose not to be selective, it's not going to work the same way for women. Women who can choose to be selective are not going to, who can be selective are not going to choose to not be selective. They're just not going to do that. They're not going to go, well, I can have the guy who's a 9, but just for the hell of it, I'm going to also take the guy who's a 5 because I just want to. It's abundance. They're not going to do that. So the two don't work side by side and hand in hand. They don't work on the same level. So when men do it, it really disrupts so much. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts? Comment down below. I'd love to hear comments on that. Do you guys notice that? Do you see it? Is it something, or are you one of those people who like, I just don't see it? Maybe it doesn't happen in every area. I'd love to know your thoughts, you guys. So as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.